I always thought that family meant loyalty, that no matter what happened, we had each other's backs. I spent years building up our family business. Late nights, weekends sacrificed, my own dreams put on hold. I never questioned it. I just believed that when the time came, my parents would remember all that I had given. But then, one morning over coffee, my mother's eyes darted away as she told me, "We've decided to put everything in your brother's name. He's better suited to handle things." I thought I'd misheard. My heart slammed in my chest. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice from shaking. She couldn't even look at me. That was the moment it hit me. I wasn't just being left out, I was being erased. The business I'd built, the inheritance I'd counted on, it was all going to him. The golden child, the one who'd never lifted a finger unless there was a camera on him. And just like that, I realized I was disposable. But they had no idea what was coming next. I wasn't going to be their silent sacrifice anymore. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, hit that like button, share where you're watching from, and subscribe so you never miss a story like this. Now, let's dive in. I'm Laura Mitchell, 48 years old, the eldest daughter in a family that built its wealth on sweat, sacrifice, and trust. Trust I thought would never break. I believed loyalty ran thicker than water. I believed I'd always have a place in the business I helped build. I was wrong. I've always believed in family first. After college, I put my dreams on hold to help build the family business, Mitchell & Sons Imports, a company that started in our cramped garage with nothing but sweat and a single pickup truck. My father, Robert Mitchell, was the face of it all, charming, respected in town, and known for his handshake deals. My mother, Joanne, balanced the books, working late nights with coffee and worry lines, while Dad built the reputation. When I came home from college with a marketing degree, I could have landed a job anywhere, but I chose family. I walked into that old office, musty carpet, broken blinds, and rolled up my sleeves. I spent nights learning the supply chains, weekends chasing clients. My name wasn't on the sign, but my fingerprints were on every contract. My younger brother, Dylan, though, he always got the easy route. The golden child, the one who didn't have to ask for a second chance when he messed up. Dad always had a soft spot for him. "He's got potential," Dad would say. Mom doted on him, excusing every slip. It was always, "Laura, cover for your brother," or "Laura, help him understand the books." I didn't mind, at least not at first. I figured family was about lifting each other up. I figured the sacrifices I made, working double shifts, missing vacations, skipping my best friend's wedding, would pay off in the end. I thought loyalty meant something. When Dad hinted that he was grooming me to take over, I felt a surge of pride. He'd say things like, "Laura, one day all this will be yours." I believed him. I was the one who stuck around when the market dipped. I was the one who smoothed over client relations after Dad's health started to falter. I even helped Dylan get his feet under him after he'd run off to California and come back broke. But lately, things started to shift. Dylan's ideas, half-baked plans that never lasted, suddenly became innovative. Dad's health wobbled, and Mom stepped in more, whispering in his ear that maybe Dylan was the future of the business. I noticed the way they started excluding me from meetings, the way Dad's office door closed a little too quickly when I passed. Still, I thought family meant loyalty. I thought they'd remember the nights I stayed late and the deals I saved. I thought they'd remember I never asked for much, just respect and a fair share. I was wrong. It happened on a Tuesday, one of those days where the sun felt too bright for the weight in the air. I'd spent the morning reviewing invoices and preparing the quarterly report for Dad's signature. I remember feeling proud of how I'd kept things steady despite the market downturn. I even left a note on his desk with the numbers, hoping for a smile or at least a nod of appreciation. Instead, when I walked into the office that afternoon, the atmosphere felt different. Mom was sitting in Dad's chair, her hands folded in her lap like a queen on a throne. Dad was next to her, looking at the floor, and Dylan, was leaning against the filing cabinet with that smug, easy grin he always wore when he knew he'd won something. "Laura," Mom started, her tone too gentle, like she was about to put me down easy. "We need to talk." I sank into the visitor's chair across from them, the one I'd sat in 1,000 times before when we'd brainstormed ideas or problem-solved together. But this time, the air felt cold. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. "We've been thinking about the future of the business," he mumbled. "Dylan has some new ideas." Mom cut in, eyes shining as if she'd found the golden ticket in a cereal box. "Fresh, modern concepts. He's been networking, getting us exposure we could never get with the old ways." I felt my stomach twist. "But I've been here every day, every late night. I know the ins and outs," I thought. Mom's hand fluttered dismissively. "Laura, sometimes it's time to step aside. Dylan has a vision." "A vision?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "He's barely held a job for a year. He's the one who got us in trouble with that shipment fiasco." Dad winced, but still wouldn't look at me. "Laura, we appreciate everything you've done, but it's time for the next generation to lead." "The next generation?" I felt like I was underwater, like their words were muffled by a current I couldn't fight. "You mean Dylan?" Mom's eyes turned steely. "We're transferring management to Dylan, effective immediately, and we're updating the will to reflect this." I felt the floor drop out. "The will?" Dad finally looked at me, but his eyes were dull. "It's time, Laura. We have to think about the future. Dylan needs this." I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind them of every sacrifice, every missed birthday, every sleepless night. Instead, I sat there, feeling every bit of the betrayal settle into my bones. Dylan cleared his throat. "It's not personal, Laura. It's business." I looked at him, this brother I'd carried on my back for years, and I saw the smirk that told me he'd been waiting for this. It was personal, and it was betrayal. I left that office with my head spinning, my heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. I'd given everything, my time, my weekends, my 20s, to build that business. And they just handed it over like a birthday gift to the brother who never cared enough to show up on time. I tried to fight back. That night, I went home and pulled out every record, every contract I'd signed, every late-night email I'd written to save a client relationship. I highlighted them, stacked them in neat piles, and walked into Dad's office the next morning. "Dad," I said, voice trembling but firm, "I've poured my life into this place. Look at these records, read the emails. I'm the one who kept us afloat when Dylan disappeared for weeks. I'm the one who got us the last big client." He sighed, eyes sad, like he was the victim. "Laura, you're making this harder than it needs to be." Mom crossed her arms. "Don't be dramatic, Laura. We've made our decision." "Decision?" I snapped. "To betray your own daughter? To reward the son who couldn't be bothered to show up for work half the time?" Dylan walked in then, with that same arrogant tilt to his head. "Laura, this isn't about you. You've always been so uptight, like you're the only one who knows how to run things. Maybe it's time you let go." I felt my blood boil. "Let go? I've given up everything for this family, and you're telling me to just walk away?" Mom's voice turned cold. "Maybe it's time you focused on yourself for a change." Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. "We just want what's best for the family." I laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. Best for the family, or best for Dylan? They all looked away then, like they couldn't bear the truth in my words. Over the next few days, every time I walked into the office, I felt the shift. People who used to smile at me now looked away. I'd overhear whispers. "She's losing it. She's too emotional. She's just jealous." Gaslighting. every single one of them making me feel like I was the problem, like my passion and dedication were weaknesses. At home, I cried alone. I replayed every conversation, every sacrifice. The birthday I'd missed for a client dinner, the vacation I'd canceled because the warehouse flooded, the times I'd covered Dylan's mistakes, lying to suppliers, negotiating with angry clients, making sure Dad never saw the worst of it. And now, I was the outsider. But deep inside, something shifted. I started to realize how easily they'd all dismissed me, how little they valued the sleepless nights, the weekends sacrificed, the relationships I'd let fade because this business was everything to me. They'd taken me for granted, and I was done being their doormat. I'd always believed that loyalty would be enough, that if I just worked hard and gave everything, my family would see my worth. But that meeting, that cold dismissal, was the final straw. I spent a sleepless night staring at the ceiling, every slight and every betrayal replaying in my mind. At dawn, I made coffee and sat with my laptop, my hands trembling. I typed business attorney near me and hit search. By noon, I was sitting in a modest office across from a lawyer named Ellen Carter. She looked at me with a mix of compassion and quiet strength. "Laura," she said, "you've given your life to this business. Let's see what we can do to protect you." We went over the paperwork, old contracts, partnership agreements, everything I'd signed without a second thought because I trusted them. Ellen pointed out the clauses I'd never noticed, the signatures that were supposed to guarantee my place. "You have more rights here than you think," she said. "Don't let them gaslight you into believing you're powerless." Her words were like a match striking dry kindling. I reached out to a friend, Clara, someone I'd drifted from because of the business. She'd always been there, always cheering me on, even when I didn't have time to text her back. Over coffee at a small cafe, I poured everything out. The betrayal, the manipulation, the pain. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Laura, you've always been the strongest person I know. They don't define you. You define you." Her words echoed in my head for days. I started making plans. I began to explore options. What it would take to start fresh, how to leverage my experience to build something of my own. I felt my backbone strengthen with each new idea. I went back to Ellen with questions. Could I sue? Could I challenge the will? Could I hold them accountable for pushing me out after everything I'd sacrificed? "You could," she said, "and maybe you should. But first, you need to decide what's most important to you, fighting them or freeing yourself." And that's when it clicked. I wasn't here to fight for scraps anymore. I wasn't here to beg for a seat at a table I'd helped build. I was here to take back my power. For the first time in years, I felt a calm settle over me. They might have chosen the golden child, but I was choosing me. The day I walked into the family office, I felt like a storm had settled inside me. Steady, determined. For years, I'd walked through that door weighed down by loyalty and a desperate need for approval. Today, I carried something different. My dignity. My parents were there, seated at the same mahogany table where I'd celebrated birthdays and planned business strategies. My brother, the golden child, sat beside them, his smirk just as smug as ever. "Laura," Dad said, his voice rehearsed. "We didn't expect you today." I took a deep breath, meeting each of their eyes. "I'm here because I deserve to be, and because you all need to hear me." My brother shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. "Look, Laura, this is business. You always took things too personally." I leaned forward, my tone calm but unyielding. "Personally? You think loyalty is personal? Let me remind you, every weekend I gave up, every birthday party I missed for my kids because I was here, every late night making sure the numbers balanced, that wasn't personal. That was sacrifice." Mom opened her mouth, but I held up my hand. "Number, you all had your say. Now it's my turn." I laid out the paperwork Ellen had helped me gather. proof of my shares, my signatures, my role in building this business from the ground up. I know my rights. I know you can't push me out without a fight, and I'm done rolling over. My brother's face paled. You're overreacting, Laura. We're family. Let's just... Family? I let out a short laugh. Family doesn't treat each other like disposable employees. Family doesn't cut one of their own out because it's convenient. And family sure as hell doesn't treat loyalty like a weakness. Dad's brow furrowed. We had to make decisions for the good of the company. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. And now, I have to make decisions for the good of me. I paused, letting the silence hang like a weight in the room. And I know things you'd rather the board and the community not know. I glanced at my brother, who shifted again, his face draining of color. Your personal expenses hidden in the books, I continued. The questionable consulting fees paid to your buddy's company. The mess you'd be in if someone actually took a look at the accounts. Mom gasped. My brother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You can either let me leave with what I'm owed, or I take it public. And trust me, I won't be the one to lose. The room was silent, the balance of power tilting. For the first time, I felt the weight of their fear, their uncertainty. And I knew I'd won. I stood, gathering my paperwork. You can call my lawyer if you want to discuss it. Otherwise, I'm done. As I reached the door, I turned back to them. You taught me that loyalty means nothing. I hope you remember that next time you look at each other. And with that, I walked away, stronger than I'd ever been. I walked out of that office feeling like the weight of the world had finally lifted off my shoulders. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the parking lot, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was walking towards something that was finally mine. I thought about all the years I'd spent there, arriving before the lights were even on, staying late to close deals, smoothing over my brother's mistakes, and holding the family together like duct tape on a leaky pipe. I had been their safety net, their fixer, their good daughter. But where had it gotten me? Betrayed, undervalued, and cut out like I was never a part of it in the first place. But as I stood there, keys in hand, I realized that I didn't have to let their choices define me. They'd taught me a hard lesson. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to walk away. I thought back to the moment my dad handed me that cold, clinical explanation for why I'd been pushed aside. We had to make decisions for the good of the company. And I thought about how my brother had tried to gaslight me into believing I was overreacting, that I was too sensitive, too attached, too everything. But the truth was, I wasn't too much of anything. I was enough. I'd given them everything. My time, my energy, my loyalty. I had shown up for every crisis, every last-minute meeting, every time they called. I'd been the glue that held the cracks together, and they'd counted on me to never break. But I had, and in that break, I'd found my strength. So I chose peace. I chose to let them live in the mess they'd made, to let them face the consequences of the decisions they thought were so easy to make. I chose to protect my heart, my sanity, and my future. I knew I'd still feel the sting of their betrayal sometimes, at holidays, or when I saw a family photo that reminded me of what we'd lost. But I also knew that I'd built something inside myself that they could never take away. A sense of worth that didn't depend on their approval. I'd started my own consulting business, a small operation, but one where I called the shots and no one could pull the rug out from under me. I'd made new friends, joined a local running club, and even started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. And every time doubt crept in, I'd remind myself, I'm more than their scapegoat. I'm more than the loyal daughter. I'm a woman who knows her worth. Standing on my porch one evening, cup of tea in hand, I watched the sun sink below the horizon. The colors spread out like a promise of new beginnings, of strength I hadn't known I had. And I whispered to myself, never again. Never again would I let them define me. Never again would I sacrifice my peace for their convenience. This was my life. And for the first time in years, it was exactly where I wanted it to be. Have you ever felt like the people you trusted the most turned their backs on you? What would you do if your own family cut you out after years of loyalty and sacrifice? Would you fight for your place, or would you choose to walk away and start fresh? I'd love to hear your story. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences matter. Don't forget to like this video if it hit home, and subscribe for more real-life stories that remind us all. Sometimes, the hardest betrayals come from the people we love most.